Some years ago, I was at a conference, and I heard a talk by a CFR priest. A CFR is a Franciscan friar. They wear gray habits, have shaved heads, have beards, take vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. He was giving a talk about a time when he was at a gas station. He was with one of his brothers, and they were filling up the car with gas, and these Muslim men came up, and they were talking to them, and they got into a little dialogue, and at one point, he was talking about the Prophet Muhammad. The CFR priest started to talk about, he said, what do you think about Jesus? And the man said, we think Jesus is a prophet, but, Muhammad is a great prophet. And at this point, the priest said, well, we believe that Jesus is the Son of God. He's not just a prophet. He's one with God. He's God come among us. And the Muslim man said, that is crazy. And the Catholic priest said, that's right. That's right. And by him saying that, he realized, yes, you actually understand what I'm saying. That's right. That's what I'm saying. And I think there's a desire these days to domesticate who Jesus is, to not let him sort of shine in all of his glory, and to let him come to us in the stark nature of who he is and who he claimed to be. And there's a line in the gospel that I think really points to that. John the Baptist was incredibly popular. When people are coming from all over to see him. And they ask him in the gospel these questions. Are you the Messiah? I'm not the Messiah. Are you Elijah? There was a prophecy that Elijah would come back right before the great and terrible day of the Lord. He says, I'm not Elijah. Are you the prophet? Not just a prophet. Jews believed that God would send another prophet like Moses, like an incredible prophet. And they're saying, are you him? I'm not him either. He says, I'm the guy talked about in Isaiah. I'm the voice of the one crying out in the wilderness. But then they ask, but if you're not the Messiah, if you're not Elijah, if you're not the prophet, by what authority are you baptizing people? And of course, he just points to the one coming after him. He points to Jesus. I'm just preparing the way for this one coming. And again, I know we heard this in last week's gospel. He said, I am not worthy to untie the straps of his sandals, which is what slaves did for their masters in the ancient world when they came home from a journey. The master would sit down, the slave would untie their shoes, and they would wash their feet. And John is saying, who's incredibly popular, who people think is a great prophet, or he himself is the Messiah, he's saying, he's so much greater than I am. I'm not even worthy to touch his sandals. I'm not even worthy to be his slave. He is the light of the world. That's who I'm pointing to, Jesus. And that's Jesus in all of his glory and power. Jesus is the light of the world. And if Jesus is who he claimed to be, and we encounter him, then everything about our lives should change. Everything. C.S. Lewis once famously said, Christianity is either of the highest importance or it's of no importance. What it cannot be is of moderate importance. Because it all hinges, everything we believe, all hinges on the person of Jesus of Nazareth. Is he who he claimed to be? Is he the Lord? Is he God come among us? And to be clear, if he's not, then he's a terrible person. He's a fanatic, delusional, crazy person. He's crazy. He thinks he's God and he's not, or he's lying to people. Or he is in fact who he claims to be. He's the Lord. He's the creator God who's come among us. And if Jesus is who he claims to be, then that means that every human heart is made by him and is made for him. It also means that the only person who deserves all of your heart is the person who made it. And that is Jesus himself. And I just want to make a connection to, I'm wearing rose today, which is the color of Gaudete Sunday, which of course is the third candle in the Advent wreath. And the idea, Gaudete is the Latin word for rejoice, to have joy. But if you look at all the readings we just heard, think about the responsory psalm we just sang, right? My spirit rejoices in my God. That's what Our Lady says. My spirit rejoices in God, my Savior. St. Paul says, rejoice always. How can you do that? At the end of the reading, he says, the God who calls you is faithful, and he will do it. In other words, the joy we're meant to have as Christians is all rooted in Jesus and our relationship with him. Because we can all have kind of like a fleeting joy. Like, my spirit rejoices in good food and drink. My spirit rejoices in great Wi-Fi. My spirit rejoices in comfort. But if that's where our joy is, when those things are taken away, our joy goes away. And over in Paul's letters, he tells his followers, have joy, rejoice, have joy. And some of these letters he's writing from prison. And he's in prison for a crime he didn't commit. And he's still telling his followers, have joy because of who God is, of what God has revealed in Jesus, of how he loves us, of what he revealed in the cross. Have joy all times. He knows who you are. Your names are written in heaven. This persecution will pass. Have joy. But all of that hinges on the person of Jesus. Is he who he claimed to be? And so a question I have for all of us as we zero in the last couple of weeks of our Advent is, how would your life change? How would my life change if we believed with 100% certainty that Jesus is Lord? That we took Jesus at his word. Jesus, you are who you claim to be. You are the light of the world. You are the eternal Son of God. And what we're preparing for is when you came among us as a little child at Christmas, right? We talk about Jesus, we talk about the God of the universe coming into the world. Some people might say, that's crazy. And you can say, close, it's called Christmas. That's what Christmas is. That's what we're celebrating. That's what we're preparing for, is when God came among us in all of his glory. We don't want to domesticate Jesus. We don't want to sanitize him. We want to see him in all of his glory as the light of the world. And I'd like to close with a story. It comes from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the story written by C.S. Lewis. And if you remember, the children go through the wardrobe, of course, they're in Narnia. And in Narnia, beavers can speak. It's Narnia. And for C.S. Lewis, his image of Jesus was Aslan, who's this massive, glorious lion. And at one point, the beavers are talking about Aslan in front of the children. And as they're talking about him, they get scared because Aslan sounds strong. He sounds powerful. He sounds mighty. And this is what the dialogue is. The beaver says, Aslan is a lion, the great lion. Oh, said Susan, I thought he was a man. Is he quite safe? I shall feel rather nervous about meeting a lion. Safe, said Mr. Beaver. Who said anything about safe? Of course he isn't safe, but he's good. He's the king, I tell you. No, he's not safe, but he's good. He's the king, I tell you. That's the king we're preparing for, just 11 or 12 days, to be born again in our hearts. And we should prepare for that by challenging ourselves, say, how would my life change if I believed with 100% certainty that Jesus is Lord, that he is who he claimed to be?